When we think about retirement, many of us probably imagine settling down in some nice sleepy village or seaside town with some well-earned peace and quiet. But not all of us, because there's a new breed of pensioner out there that reckons that the capital is the best place to grow old, as Joanne Good discovered.
How many of us can honestly say that however much we love London, on a stifling Monday night, struggling to get home from work, we haven't dreamt of this: waking up to a sea view far from the crowded city. If you've got savings or own your own London property, retirement has, in the past, given you the chance to do just that. Escape from the hustle and bustle of the city to a place in the country or by the sea. But it seems times have changed for some of London's pensioners. They desire the hustle and bustle, and this big old city has become retirement nirvana. Steve Pratt worked all his life as a Mercedes-Benz mechanic and has recently retired. And he loves fishing. So in the past, he would have been a prime candidate for a cottage by a stream or a bungalow by the sea. But he spends his retirement out and about, soaking up all the joys the big city can offer.
The transport system is absolutely fantastic. You've only got to wait 2 or 3 minutes and a bus comes along.
There you go.
And, you know, it's the best thing I got was an Oyster card. 60, if you live in London Borough, you get this £10 card and you can go anywhere. Underground, National Rail, overground, you can go all over. And I've seen places, I've lived here all my life and I've seen places that I didn't know existed. I'm interested in crime and things like that. I saw a programme the other day about Ruth Ellis, the last woman to be hanged. And I went and saw where she shot that David Blakely, her lover. I got up to the Old Bailey, sitting on the case there. There's so much here. I'm up and down most days of the week. It's a pure theatre.
Since he retired, Steve now uses his very own living theatre the way a tourist might. And according to feedback from a recent survey by Britain Thinks, an organisation that shows policymakers and government think tanks what the latest trends are, he is just one of many pensioners who are now happy to retire in London.
People think of London as a young city, but one of the things that we found, and there's an irony here, is that the people that London works best for is actually not young people at all. The people that London seems to work best for is older people. And what we found increasingly was that we had a group of unhappy young people living in London. None of them can afford anywhere to live. They're all looking for jobs, and it's very competitive, whether you've got a degree from Oxford or whether you're a school leaver, to the point where older people are moving into London, while younger people are thinking, I'm going to be moving out of here. Older people can afford London. Often they've got property, which means that they don't have to worry about where they live. They like the atmosphere, they like its diversity, they like what it has to offer culturally, they like everything about it.
There's just so much to see. I can visit museums or anything like that. There's these terrific guided walks, which only cost £9, I think. When I was growing up, it was the Beatles, so I went on the Beatles walk around Abbey Road. I'd never been there, you know, seen the zebra crossing. Obviously there are the big sites that we all know in London, but there's so many little quirky places. I'd like to go there and sample it for myself.
So some Londoners are more than happy to never leave the big city. But what about the others who already left to try the more tranquil life? Here in beautiful North Devon, one man wants to sell this gorgeous house to return to Acton.
I retired a few years ago and moved down here. I've just found that I miss city life.
Mark wants to return back to the city because, having worked all his life, like many retirees, he wants to do voluntary work. And it's not the kind suited to sleepy Devon.
I'm a person in long-term recovery. My particular addiction is alcohol, and I have been sober for 27 years. since I've retired, I've thrown myself into doing volunteer work for people who suffer from addiction issues. And I find that the lack of acceptance for that down here to be quite different than it has been in London. There's 600 people or so in this village, you know, and I sneeze and everybody knows, and if anybody else sneezes, I know about it. And that's lovely. There's a sense of community that I won't experience. But the big city anonymity, where a lot of people don't know their own neighbors kind of thing, I think creates a freedom for people who might meet disapproval more from a lack of education and understanding.
One of the things that's really interesting about London, and it's particularly true again of older people, is the feeling that you can be whatever you want to be in London, and that anything, people aren't going to judge you in the same way, anybody's acceptable. Whatever you are, however different you are, London will embrace you.
Returning home to be embraced by the capital is one thing, but what about if you've lived most of your life in the countryside? Surely the concrete urbanism of the Barbican would frighten the living daylights out of you. Well, not one retired couple from Suffolk.
We married in our early 60s. We bought a very nice house in Ipswich on the Shotley Peninsula. I was still working, so we bought a one-bedroom flat in the Barbican. We had a period where we had this flat in London and we had a very nice house with a lovely garden in Suffolk. But our intention is that as we get older, the Barbican is going to be where we're going to be spending the rest of our lives. Where we are in the Barbican, if you put a line around a 40-minute walk, you can cover most places that you want to go. One tends to walk much more extensively in London. You go up and down escalators if you're using London Underground. In the country, one is very much more car-borne. And I think that if you're active in this way, this is good for your health. As one gets older, one's brain needs a good stimulus in order to avoid some of these rather nasty conditions that one seems to get in old age. And I think living in the country, no matter how attractive it is, one doesn't get that level of stimulation. We love music, we love arts, we love the culture. We've got it here on our doorstep.
So it seems that London has a whole new set of modern-day Samuel Johnsons, who in 1777 said this: "Why, sir, you find no man at all intellectual who is willing to leave London. No, sir, when a man is tired of London, he is tired of life, for there is in London all that life can afford." I wonder if he was thinking of pensioners when he wrote that.
Fascinating report from Joanne Good there, although I'm not sure I'm ready to give up on my dream of a little cottage next to a sparkling trout stream just yet.